Hey y'all. Okay, so today's grammar video is lesson 45. In your book, it is on page 119. This lesson is all about apostrophes. So we have talked about this actually before, and you've had a spelling lesson about this, and we've actually done a grammar lesson on this before. So hopefully this will be a review for you guys. But we use apostrophes to do two things. We use apostrophes to show possession, and then we also use them in contractions. So those are the two places where we have talked about using apostrophes so far. So look up with me in the few sentences under read and discover. It says most amphibians' lives are spent partly in water and partly on land. They're descendants of the first vertebrates that crawled on land long ago. Now, which of those bold-faced words shows ownership? If you said amphibians, you are correct because it's talking about their lives. So the amphibians are owning their lives essentially in this sentence. And then which bold-faced word combines two words? You said there, you are correct. And there, that contraction, you could break it apart into they are. So in that gray box, it says to form the possessive of a singular noun, you add an apostrophe and an S. So if you had boy and you were talking about the boy's shoes, you would add an apostrophe S to boy. So you could then say the boy's shoes were by the door. For plural nouns that end in S, you add an apostrophe. For plural nouns that do not end in S, you add an apostrophe and an S. So if we were talking about the boys' shoes, meaning multiple boys, if boys was plural, it would be boys apostrophe. There would not be an S on the end. And then if you were talking about the example in that gray box is children. So children is already plural. So then you would add an apostrophe S to that one. And then apostrophes are also used in contractions. And I think you guys know that and have been practicing that. So in part one, it says underline the correct word in parentheses. If the answer is a possessive, you need to write P. If the answer is a contraction, you need to write C. So two-part directions. You are going to do all of part one. And then in part two, sorry, Finley's right here. You see him? Knocking my book off. Sorry. So in part two, I want you to pick two sentences. So you can do any two that you want, 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17. Pick any two. And for this, all you need to do, you don't have to rewrite the entire sentence, but I do want you to rewrite, follow that second part where it says replace the bold-faced words with possessive or contractions. That's what I'm looking for in your two sentences. So you do not need to rewrite the entire sentence, but you do need to replace the bold-faced word with the possessive or the contraction. So let's look back at part one. We're going to do two of these together. So number one says, I've read that amphibians stay the same temperature as their surroundings. So if we look at the two Ives in the parentheses, one stands out to me. And the one that stands out is the one with the apostrophe because that's a contraction. So if I break it apart to see if it makes sense, I have read that amphibians stay the same temperature as their surroundings. That makes sense. So I'm going to underline I've, the one with the apostrophe. And since I broke it apart, that lets you know that this word is a contraction. Okay, and then let's do number three. We're actually going to skip number two, and we're going to go down to number three. It says, an amphibian's body tells a lot about how it lives and moves. Now, this sentence is kind of tricky. We need to decide how many amphibians are being talked about in this sentence. So the kind of clue word for me in number three is it. It is singular, meaning that we're only talking about one amphibian. So now when I go back to look at the two words in parentheses, it helps me select which one. So if you know that the sentence is only talking about one amphibian, that should narrow your selection to amphibian apostrophe S, because that is the singular version of amphibian. And it is in the possessive form. So you're going to circle that first amphibian, the one that is amphibian apostrophe S, and then in the blank you're going to write a P because it is possessive. Okay, so all of part 1 and then 2 from part 2 is your assignment for today for lesson 45. Hope you guys have a great day. See ya.